We are now going to start constructing our liner, and first thing is our zipper pocket. So what we want to do is find the center of the top edge and bottom edge of our lower panels by folding in half and just clipping. We have our zipper overlay, and we're going to measure 1 3/4 of an inch down from the top edge of the lower panel. And what I like to do is put my 6-inch mark on my ruler right in the halfway mark that we just snipped into the panel. That way I know that the center of my panel is at 6 inches on my ruler. And I also know that this overlay is 8 inches long. So when I line it up, I am going to line up one edge with the 10-inch mark and one edge with the 2-inch mark on my ruler. And that's how I know that everything is centered. I also like to take the paper off the tape, but only on one side of the overlay, and that's the side that I stick down first. That way I'm not sort of wrestling with both edges of the overlay sticking when I only want one edge to stick. So I stick that down. I'm going to look at it and make sure that it looks straight and everything looks good. And then I am going to remove the tape from the other side, remove the paper from the tape from the other side. And then before I press it down, I'm just going to let it sit where it wants to sit, because that way I'm not forcing it to sit too far up or too far down, kind of warping this opening. I'm going to let it just kind of fall where it wants to fall, and then I stick it down. So everything looks straight. And next what we're going to do is top stitch around the outside edge of our overlay, leaving long tails at the beginning and long tails at the end. And when you approach the first stitch that you made, you're going to want to end your stitches with your needle down in the hole of the very first stitch. So basically it's going to look like a seamless line all the way around, because you're not back stitching at the start and the stop. So pull long thread tails from your needle and just begin going slowly down the long edge. And you want to slow down as you approach this corner. Okay, we're gonna do one stitch at a time, pivoting as you stitch. So stitch one, pivot, stitch one, pivot, and then straight down this side edge. And then again, we're gonna pivot in between each stitch. And that gives you a really smooth corner. And we're gonna go all the way down this bottom edge. Okay, and I'm at the next corner, so I'm gonna stitch, pivot, stitch, pivot, and continue on. And now we're approaching the very last corner, and before I get there, I'm going to lift my panel, lift my presser foot as well, pull on my bobbin thread from my very first stitch, and pull that top thread to the back. So now on my very first stitch, I no longer have any threads on the right side of the material. And that is so that when your needle ends your stitch line in the very first hole of your first stitch, it won't get tangled with the thread that's on the right side. So stitch, pivot, stitch, pivot and continue on until you get right to that first stitch. Pull long threads and snip them off. And then you can see here how that stitch line is really, really smooth around the corners. Okay, and we ended our last stitch in the hole of the first stitch. So flip to the back side and pull on the bobbin thread, which will bring your top thread to the back, and then we're going to tie it off. I like to do 3 strong knots and then apply some super glue to the knot. And I never like to cut the tails too short, so I leave them pretty long because that way it won't unravel easily. Okay, so turning this to the right side, I'm going to take my shears, fold this a little bit, and snip a little opening inside this window. I'm going to get my scissors in there, and I'm going to just cut a line down the center of the window. I'm only cutting the liner panel. I'm not cutting the overlay. And once I get to the very edge, I'm going to get my scissor tip underneath that side edge of the overlay, and so I can snip behind it. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Continue my cut behind the overlay. And that way when you turn it over, you can get your scissors in there and cut away the liner panel. So you can see here, I'm cutting the liner panel away from the edges of the window of the overlay. Just cut all the way down and then turn that corner and do the same on the other side. Now this does not have to look pretty. This is not going to be seen from the right side of the bag. All you need to make sure of is that this window is now open and it doesn't have any liner showing beyond the edges of the overlay window. So if you look at it from this side, it's super clean looking. And next we're going to take our zipper pocket liner and our zipper. And our zipper is 8 inches wide because our zipper pocket liner is 8 inches wide. And also I like to just flame the ends to clean up all of the frayed edges. So we're going to place our zipper wrong sides to the right side of the liner and baste along this edge here. And make sure that you're basting at about 1/8 of an inch or so that these stitches are not visible from the front. Okay, so that zipper is now attached to our liner panel with the right sides are both facing up. And next what we're going to do is take the bottom of the zipper panel and we're going to align it with the other edge of the zipper so that the wrong side of the zipper is facing the right side of the liner. Okay, and we're going to baste that as well. Okay, so you should have a zipper and a pocket liner that looks like this. The right side of the zipper is facing out while the wrong side of the pocket liner is facing out on both sides. So now we want to place double-sided tape along both long edges of the zipper. Just right along the edge so that can stay within the seam allowances. So you can see there's some double-sided tape along the edge of both sides of the zipper. And then next we're going to attach our zipper pull. And how I like to do this is I check to see which side of the zipper has the very last tooth. And it looks like the very last tooth is on this side of the zipper. So that's going to be the first side that I put into my zipper pull. And then, so I insert it into the zipper pull, hold that in place, and then insert the other edge into my zipper pull. And then I'm gonna kind of just look down the back side of the pull and adjust the sides so that the teeth align in the same order that they were before I put the pull on. So the last tooth on the zipper is still on this side of the zipper. And I'm gonna slide that pull up to about 2/3 of the way up the zipper. And I always like to have my pocket so that my zipper pull opens this way. So I'm going to align it behind my zipper overlay window in this direction so that the zipper pull opens that way. So before I do that, I'm going to remove the paper from the tape. And make sure that the pull kind of stays out of my way. And I'm going to align the overlay over the top of the zipper. And I'm going to center the zipper in the window, in the short edges of the window first. I'm going to make sure that the zipper is centered here and here first. And then I'm going to stick down the rest of the zipper. And that will help me get the zipper as straight as possible inside this window. Just like that. Okay, next what we are going to do, the very first seam around the zipper is going to be starting right here below the zipper, a little bit past the opening. So start here a little bit past the opening this direction. We're going to sew all the way down the bottom edge of the zipper, and we're going to stitch just past this edge of the opening, and we're going to stop stitching there. We're going to pull long tails at the beginning and the end so that we can pull them to the back and tie them off. The very most important thing that you do is pull the liner of the pocket up so that when you stitch, you're not stitching through both sides of your pocket. So if it was down like this, you'd basically be stitching the pocket closed. So you want that to be up so that you're stitching along this bottom edge here. All right, I have long tails. And I'm starting my line of stitches just past the opening of the window. Put my needle down. I'm going to make sure that the pocket is pulled all the way up and out of my way. And I'm going to slowly stitch all the way down. The edge of my foot is kind of gliding along my zipper. And once I approach the zipper pull, I'm going to lift my foot, pull the zipper pull past my foot, and then continue to stitch. Okay, my needle right now is aligned with this edge of the window, so I'm going to go one stitch further and then lift my needle and pull long threads. So my stitch line is just underneath the opening and it goes just past the edge of the window. So I'm going to flip it to the wrong side and pull my threads to the back. And tie them off. I'm going to put a little bit of super glue on the knot. And then fold the liner of the pocket down. So that we can continue to stitch around the pocket. So now the liner of our zipper pocket is facing down. And we are now going to put our needle down in the hole of the last stitch we did on the line of stitches across the bottom. We're going to sew up the short edge of the window, across the top, and down the other short edge, ending in the first stitch of the last line of stitches. We're going to make sure that we pull long threads from our needle again so that we can tie them off at the beginning and end of our stitch line. We're going to make sure that the pull stays out of our way, and once we go far enough, we can lift our foot, pull the zipper pull past your foot, and then continue sewing. Okay, my needle is down, aligned with the short edge of the window, so I'm going to go one stitch forward and then pivot, and I'm going to pull the liner so it lies flat and sew down the short edge of the window, ending my stitch line in the hole of the first stitch. Pull long threads and cut, and you can see here we've gone up the side of the window, across the top, and down the other side. And I'm going to turn that to the back side and pull the top threads through to the back so we can tie them off. Now we have a pocket with a fully stitched zipper. Now from the back side, what we're going to do next is cut open the bottom of our pocket. And this is going to remain open until the very, very last step of stitching our bag together. So I like to get one edge of my scissors in the pocket and kind of pull down as I'm cutting sideways. And that way I can get the most even cut. And I go all the way across to the other side. So now we have two separate liner panels that are connected obviously by the zipper stitches. And the reason that I do this is kind of twofold. One, it's so that when you're cutting out your bag, you only have to cut one panel for your zipper pocket liner. That just reduces the amount of pieces that you have to cut, one instead of two. And the second reason is if you were to cut two of these pieces the same size, then they wouldn't line up along the bottom because this liner is shorter than this liner. So it's much easier for me and more efficient to just cut one piece and then cut across the bottom once it's installed. So now what you can do is take the bottom edge of your liner and kind of fold it up by 1/4 to 1/2 inch and press it. And then do the same thing on the other side. And that way it'll be ready for you when you go to close it up at the end of the pattern. It'll be nice and folded straight all ready for you. I have now pressed the bottom edge of both liner panel pieces to the back side by about 3/8 of an inch. And the next step we're going to do is sew up both sides of the zipper pocket. So what we're going to do is turn this to the right side so that the liner panel is showing right side up. And we're going to fold it back, exposing the raw side edge of the zipper pocket. And what I find here is that sometimes there's still some DST left on the zipper, and I like to just pick that off really quick so that it doesn't get caught on your foot. So just peel that off if it hasn't been peeled off already. For me, it's stuck to the liner panel, so there's none on the zipper anymore. So when I peeled the liner panel back, the DST went with it, which was nice. And we are going to start at the zipper. I am going to go back and forth over the zipper just 2 times or so. And then sew all the way down to the end. Closing up the sides of the zipper pocket. And back stitch at the end as well. Okay, that is stitched closed now. We're going to do the other side. Again, check to make sure that your double-sided tape is not attached to your zipper anymore, and if it is, just quickly pull that off. Shouldn't be too difficult. Line the edges up and stitch from the bottom up towards the zipper. Closing the other side of the pocket. And once you approach the zipper, you're going to go over the teeth a couple times just to lock those in place really well. Okay. Our zipper pocket is now complete. It is open on the bottom, but everything else is nice and closed.